Every day, millions of people step onto planes, trusting their lives to technology, regulations, and corporations. We go through security, listen to the safety briefing, if we're even paying attention, and settle into our seats, believing we're in one of the safest places on Earth. After all, we've been told over and over that flying is the safest mode of transportation. But is that really true? Or have we been sold a carefully crafted illusion? Airlines love to remind us that air travel is statistically safer than driving. They boast about their near-perfect safety records, the advanced technology that guides every flight, and the strict training that pilots undergo. But what they don't talk about are the hidden risks, the near misses, the close calls that never make the news. They don't tell you about pilot fatigue, the cost-cutting maintenance decisions, or the outdated equipment still in use today. Consider this. Every year, there are thousands of incidents in the air that never make headlines. Malfunctions, emergency landings, even near collisions. The aviation industry is built on redundancy, meaning planes can often land safely even when something goes wrong. But does that mean we should ignore these warning signs? Just because disasters are rare doesn't mean they don't happen. So, have we been lulled into a false sense of security? In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the airline industry, revealing the truths they'd rather keep quiet. From shocking statistics to hidden dangers, by the end of this, you might never look at flying the same way again. Buckle up, because the truth isn't always so comforting. Aviation has come a long way, but its history is marked by tragedies that forced the industry to change. Some of the most infamous disasters weren't just accidents. They were wake-up calls. Each one exposed critical flaws, weaknesses in training, miscommunications, or design failures that put lives at risk. Take the Tenerife disaster in 1977, the deadliest aviation accident in history. Two Boeing 747s collided on the runway in heavy fog, killing 583 people. It wasn't mechanical failure, it was a miscommunication between the pilots and air traffic control. A simple misunderstanding led to one of the most catastrophic moments in aviation. Then there's Air France 447, a flight that vanished over the Atlantic in 2009. When investigators found the wreckage, they discovered that a minor instrument failure had confused the pilots, leading to a fatal mistake. It was a terrifying reminder of how quickly human error can turn a routine flight into disaster. And, of course, there's Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. A modern passenger jet, completely vanishing without a trace. No distress call, no debris for years. To this day, we don't have clear answers. Did the pilot intentionally divert the plane? Was it a technical failure? The uncertainty alone is chilling. What's truly shocking is that around 80% of all plane crashes involve human error. Not mechanical failure, not turbulence, human mistakes. Whether it's misjudging weather conditions, failing to react properly to a warning system, or simple miscommunication, human error has been responsible for the majority of aviation disasters. So, what's more dangerous, the machines or the people flying them? Pilots go through rigorous training, but they're still human, and when split-second decisions mean life or death, the margin for error is terrifyingly small. Airplanes are marvels of engineering, designed to withstand extreme forces, brutal weather, and even the occasional bird strike. We've all heard the claims: planes can fly through lightning storms, handle severe turbulence, and even keep going with one engine down. But how much of that is reassuring truth, and how much is just good PR? It's true that modern aircraft are built with incredible durability. A commercial jet can take a direct lightning strike without a hitch, thanks to advanced grounding systems that disperse the electric charge. Turbulence? It might feel terrifying, but planes are stress-tested far beyond what passengers experience in flight. Even bird strikes, a known hazard, are factored into aircraft design. Though, as we've seen with incidents like the Miracle on the Hudson, hitting the wrong bird at the wrong time can still be catastrophic. But not everything is as indestructible as airlines want you to believe. Planes don't last forever. Every takeoff, every landing, every pressurization cycle adds stress to the aircraft's frame. Over time, tiny cracks can form. This is called structural fatigue. While regular maintenance checks are supposed to catch these issues, history has shown that cracks can go unnoticed until it's too late. In 1988, an Aloha Airlines flight suffered a terrifying mid-air breakup when a section of the fuselage simply tore off due to undetected fatigue. And then there's the issue of cost-cutting. Airlines operate on razor-thin profit margins, and maintenance is expensive. While major safety violations are rare, there are countless reports of airlines pushing planes to their limits, delaying repairs, extending service intervals, and even flying aircraft with known mechanical issues. After all, every grounded plane costs money. Would you still feel safe if you knew how often planes take off with minor or even major mechanical problems? Most of the time, redundancy and backup systems prevent disasters. But when something does go wrong, it's a chilling reminder that even the most advanced machines have their limits. When you board a plane, you assume the person in the cockpit is one of the best trained professionals in the world. And for the most part, that's true. Pilots go through rigorous training, countless hours of flight simulations, and strict certifications before they can fly a commercial jet. But here's something airlines don't like to advertise. Thanks to modern automation, pilots today are flying less than ever before. In fact, some only manually control the plane for a few minutes per flight. So, what happens when things go wrong? Automation has revolutionized aviation, making flights smoother and, in many ways, safer. Autopilot can handle takeoff, cruising, and landing with extreme precision. But it has also created a dangerous side effect. Pilots are becoming too dependent on it. In a crisis, when computers fail, human pilots sometimes struggle to take back control. There have been multiple near-miss incidents where automation, instead of preventing disaster, actually caused it. One of the most infamous examples is the Boeing 737 MAX crisis. Two nearly brand-new jets crashed within months of each other. Lion Air Flight 610 in 2018 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 in 2019, killing 346 people in total. The culprit? A hidden software system called MSAS that pilots weren't even properly trained on. When a faulty sensor triggered the system, it forced the plane into an unstoppable nosedive. The pilots, unaware of what was happening, fought desperately to regain control, but never stood a chance. Boeing had prioritized cost and rushed the MAX into service, assuming pilots would figure it out if something went wrong. They didn't. So, does automation make flying safer or more dangerous? On one hand, autopilot reduces human error. On the other, it's creating a new kind of vulnerability. If pilots aren't flying as much, are they losing the skills they need for emergencies? And if airlines keep prioritizing software over hands-on experience, will the next disaster be just a software glitch away? Airlines will do anything to keep costs down, because, in the end, their priority isn't always safety, it's profit. And while the industry has strict regulations, there are plenty of loopholes airlines exploit to save money, sometimes at the risk of passengers. From maintenance shortcuts to overworked pilots, there are secrets the airline industry doesn't want you to know. Take budget airlines, for example. Those ultra-cheap tickets might seem like a great deal, but have you ever wondered how they keep prices so low? The truth is, Budget airlines cut costs in places you wouldn't expect. Some outsource maintenance to third-party companies in countries with looser regulations. Others push pilots and crew to their absolute limits with grueling schedules and back-to-back flights. And let's not forget their aircraft. While many budget carriers use new planes, some operate older jets that have been retired by larger airlines, squeezing every last flight hour out of them. But here's where things get truly alarming. Pilot fatigue. A well-rested, alert pilot is the best line of defense against accidents. But what happens when pilots are exhausted? In many cases, they keep flying anyway. Airlines schedule pilots for long-haul flights with minimal rest and, some, even pressure them to fly while sleep-deprived just to keep operations on schedule. And the scariest part? Pilots falling asleep mid-flight isn't just possible. It happens more than you think. In 2013, a shocking report revealed that over 50% of pilots admitted to accidentally dozing off in the cockpit. Even worse, some woke up to find that their co-pilot was asleep too. Imagine that. A commercial airliner cruising at 35,000 feet with no one awake at the controls. While autopilot keeps the plane steady, it can't react to sudden emergencies. And if pilots are waking up groggy and disoriented when something goes wrong, how fast can they take action? Airlines will never openly admit just how often fatigue and cost-cutting impact safety. But the next time you board a flight, just remember, behind the polished marketing and reassuring announcements, there's a lot they aren't telling you. When you step onto a plane, you assume it's been thoroughly checked, inspected, and deemed safe for flight. After all, airline maintenance is supposed to be rigorous, right? The truth is, while safety checks do happen, they're not as thorough as you might think. In fact, many planes take off with known mechanical issues, problems that are considered minor enough to delay fixing. But who decides what's minor? And how far can airlines push the limits before it becomes dangerous? Technically, airlines are required to inspect their planes before every flight. But these aren't deep, detailed examinations. Many are just quick walkarounds by the flight crew, looking for obvious issues like leaking fuel, flat tires, or visible damage. The real maintenance happens at scheduled intervals, but here's where the problem starts. Airlines have found ways to stretch those intervals to the absolute max. By using regulatory loopholes, some carriers extend their maintenance cycles, keeping planes in service for as long as possible before major inspections. After all, every hour a plane is grounded is money lost. Even more disturbing are the stories from mechanics themselves. Some have spoken out about being pressured to overlook safety concerns just to keep flights on schedule. In one case, a whistleblower, mechanic from a major airline, revealed that management encouraged mechanics to defer repairs, meaning if the problem wasn't immediately life-threatening, it was postponed until later. The issue? Later often meant weeks or even months. And sometimes those minor problems turn into catastrophic failures. Take Alaska Airlines Flight 261. In 2000, the plane's tail stabilizer failed mid-flight, sending it into an uncontrolled dive. The cause? A part that should have been lubricated regularly wasn't. The airline had cut back on maintenance procedures to save money, and it cost 88 people their lives. So, would you feel comfortable flying if you knew how many minor issues go unchecked? Most flights land safely, but that's because aviation depends on redundancy. Backup systems that prevent small problems from turning into disasters. But as airlines continue to push the limits, one question remains: how many warning signs are being ignored right now? The thought of an in-flight emergency is terrifying, but what actually happens when things go wrong at 35,000 feet? Most people picture an engine failure leading to a catastrophic dive, or sudden cabin decompression ripping a plane apart. In reality, planes are designed to handle far more than you think. But when disaster does strike, your survival chances depend on what you do next. Let's start with engine failure. Despite what Hollywood might show, planes can fly with one or even no engines. If both engines fail, pilots are trained to glide the aircraft to the nearest safe landing spot. In 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549, also known as the Miracle on the Hudson, lost both engines after hitting a flock of geese. Captain Sully Sullenberger had just minutes to react, successfully ditching the plane in the Hudson River. Every passenger survived. Cabin decompression, on the other hand, is a completely different kind of emergency. If a plane's fuselage is breached due to structural failure or even an explosion, oxygen levels drop within seconds. That's why those oxygen masks drop immediately. Here's what airlines don't emphasize enough. You have about 15-30 seconds before you start losing consciousness. That's why you're told to put your mask on first, because if you pass out, you won't be able to help anyone else. And what about your actual chances of survival in a crash? Here's something surprising. 95% of people in plane crashes survive, but only if they know what to do. The safety demonstration may seem repetitive, but those instructions could save your life. Most fatalities happen because passengers panic, ignore instructions, or fail to evacuate quickly. Studies show that sitting within 5 rows of an exit increases your survival chances significantly. And yes, the seat you choose does matter. Statistically, seats near the back of the plane have slightly higher survival rates in crashes. The truth is, most plane emergencies aren't instantly fatal. What really matters is how quickly you react. Airlines focus on reassuring passengers, but wouldn't you rather know the survival tips that could make all the difference? The future of airline safety is changing fast. But is it changing for the better? With rapid advancements in AI and automation, some experts believe that pilotless planes could one day become a reality. Imagine stepping onto a plane with no human pilot in the cockpit, just computers, sensors, and AI making all the decisions. It sounds futuristic, but would it really make flying safer? Or would it create a new set of dangers airlines aren't ready to admit? On one hand, AI could eliminate human error, the #1 cause of aviation disasters. A perfectly programmed system wouldn't get tired, make impulsive decisions, or misinterpret flight data. But what happens when the technology fails? Pilots are still the last line of defense in an emergency. And we've already seen how over-reliance on automation can have deadly consequences. Just look at the Boeing 737 MAX disasters. If pilots struggled to override a malfunctioning system in those cases, how much worse would it be if there were no pilots at all? Beyond automation, the airline industry is facing another crossroads: new safety measures versus increasing cost-cutting. While technology is improving, better sensors, stronger materials, more efficient engines, airlines are constantly looking for ways to maximize profits. That means pushing maintenance cycles longer, reducing flight crews, and even shrinking seat sizes to fit more passengers. The big question is, will safety always be the priority, or will cost-saving measures start to compromise it? So what can you do to stay safe? Choosing reputable airlines with strong safety records, paying attention to the safety briefing, and knowing the best evacuation strategies could actually save your life in a crisis. At the end of the day, air satrifihi, travel remains one of the safest ways to get from one place to another, but only because of the people and systems that keep it that way. Planes are safe, but only if the right people are in control. So, the real question is, can we really trust them?